There is a truth so old that the rivers know it, so simple that the soil understands it, so powerful that no man who ignores it escapes it. What you give to this world will give back to you. Not always today, not always tomorrow, but always. This is the story of a boat maker, and the lesson he learned on the day the river almost took everything he loved. In a small village on the banks of a wide and generous river, there lived a boat maker. He was not a young man anymore. His hair had turned the color of river mist. His hands were thick and rough like the bark of the old peepal tree that stood at the edge of the village. His back had the gentle curve of a man who has spent 60 years bending over his work. But those hands could do something no other hands in the village could do. They could feel the soul of a piece of wood. When other men looked at a plank of timber, they saw wood. When the boat maker ran his fingers along the grain, he heard the river it would one day carry. He had been building boats since he was a boy of 12, sitting beside his own father, learning not just how to cut and join and seal, but how to listen, how to give every boat the same care and attention you would give to a living thing. Because a boat is a living thing, he always said. It breathes on the water. It speaks to the current. It carries the weight of the people inside it, and it asks nothing in return except that you build it with everything you have. And for 50 years, that is exactly what he did. The fishermen of the village trusted his boats with their lives. And they were right too. A boat made by him could ride the roughest monsoon waters without a single crack appearing in the hull. The joints he made were so tight and true that not one drop of river water could find its way inside. The wood he selected was always the strongest, most patient timber, seasoned for months before he touched it with his tools. He never rushed. He never cut corners. He never used a plank he was not completely sure of. As a man sows, so shall he reap. And the boat maker sowed nothing but his best into every vessel that left his hands. The village prospered because of him. Families fed their children because his boats held firm in the current. Old men came home safely because his hulls did not splinter in the storm. Young fishermen took their first catch because his boats gave them the courage to go further out than they had gone before. He never asked for praise. He never counted what he was owed. He simply built. One boat at a time. One plank at a time. One careful nail at a time. He had one son. The boy had grown up beside the river, barefoot on the banks from the time he could walk. He knew the currents the way other children knew the lanes of the village. He knew which part of the river ran deep and which ran shallow. He knew the color the water turned before a storm and the stillness that came after one. Every morning before sunrise, the son took one of his father's boats and went out onto the river alone. He loved the early morning water, the way the mist sat on the surface, the way the first light turned everything gold, the way the boat moved beneath him, steady and sure, like it was alive. He trusted that boat completely. He had never once been afraid on the river, because his father had built it. The boat maker was tired. Not the tiredness of a single long day, but the deep-bone tiredness of a man who has given his whole life to his work and finally felt the weight of all those years settling into his shoulders. His hands still knew what to do, but they moved more slowly now. They ached in the cold morning air. The heavy timber that he once lifted without thinking now required effort. He began to speak of retirement. Just a little longer, he told himself. 1 or 2 more boats. Then I will rest. Then came the commission. A wealthy merchant from the next town sent word that he needed the finest boat the village could offer. Money was no concern. He had heard of the boat maker's reputation, and he wanted only the best. The boat maker accepted. But something was different this time. He was more tired than he had admitted to himself. The wood he selected was not quite the best. Close enough, he told himself. The measurements he took were not quite as precise as they once were. Near enough, he said. The joints he sealed were not packed as carefully as they could have been. It will hold, he decided. He worked faster than he should have. He finished sooner than was wise. The boat looked beautiful. Nobody standing on the bank would have seen anything wrong. The lines were clean. The surface was smooth. It sat well in the water. But the boat maker knew. Deep in the place where a craftsman keeps his honesty, he knew. This was not his best work. This was the first boat he had ever built that he would not have put his own son in. He pushed that thought away, delivered the boat, collected his payment, and told himself it was good enough. 3 days later, the merchant came to his door. The boat maker opened it, expecting to be paid the remainder of what was owed. Instead, the merchant smiled and held out a small envelope. Inside was a letter. It said, You have spent a lifetime building boats for this village. You have kept our fishermen safe. You have fed our families. You have never once asked for more than you were given. This boat is not payment for your last commission. It is a gift, a thank you from all of us, for everything." The boat maker stood very still. He read the letter again. Then he looked up at the merchant. The merchant smiled. The boat he had built with tired hands and shortcuts and near enough was now his family's boat. That night he could not sleep. He lay in the darkness listening to the river outside his window, and he thought about every joint he had not packed tightly, every plank he had not checked properly, every measurement he had taken quickly and called near enough. He told himself it would hold. He told himself it was fine. He told himself nobody would know. But he knew, and the river knew. 3 mornings later his son took the new boat out before sunrise. The mist was on the water. The village was still sleeping. The boy pushed off from the bank the way he had done 1,000 times before and moved out onto the river alone. He did not know which boat it was. He did not know what his father had or had not done. He trusted completely. The boat maker stood on the bank and watched his son disappear into the morning mist. He went home. He sat down. He tried to eat, but something would not let him be still. An hour passed, then another. His son was always back before the sun was fully up. The boat maker went to the bank. The river was calm. The mist had lifted. The morning was bright and clear. He stood and watched the water. Then he saw the boat. It was moving toward the bank, but moving wrong. Low in the water, the boy rowing hard. Too hard. The kind of rowing a man does when something is wrong and he does not want to panic. The boat maker waded into the water up to his knees. He grabbed the bow and pulled it in. His son stepped out. His clothes were wet. His face was pale. He said nothing for a moment. Then he looked at his father. The boat was taking water, he said quietly. The joint on the left side. I felt it going about halfway out. I came back as fast as I could. The boat maker did not say a word. He turned the boat over on the bank. He ran his fingers along the joint his son had described. He felt exactly what he already knew was there. The sealant had not been packed deeply enough. The wood had shifted in the current. The joint had opened just enough for the river to begin its patient work. He stood up slowly. He looked at his son standing wet and shivering on the bank. And for the first time in his life, the boat maker wept. Not because the boat had leaked, not because his son was frightened, but because he understood something in that moment that he had always known but never truly felt in his bones. We do not build boats for strangers. We build them for the people we love. Every plank we lay in carelessness, someone we love must stand on. Every joint we seal without care, someone we love must trust with their life. Every shortcut we take, someone we love must pay for. We never cheat others. We only ever cheat ourselves. That evening the boat maker sat with his son on the bank of the river. He told him everything. About the commission, about his tired hands, about near enough and it will hold and nobody will know. About the moment he knew this was not his best work and chose to finish it anyway. About the letter from the merchant. His son listened without interrupting. The river moved past them slowly in the last light. When the father finished speaking, there was a long silence. Then the son said something the boat maker had not expected. Show me where it needs to be fixed. They worked on the boat together for 3 days. The father did not rush this time. He showed his son how to feel the grain of the wood before cutting, how to select the right timber, not the nearest timber, but the right timber, how to pack a joint so tightly that the river could push against it for 20 years and find no way through. That good work is not about what other people can see. It is about what you know when you are alone with your work. It is about the standard you hold inside yourself when nobody is watching. The future depends on what we do in the present. And what we do in the present, we must live within the future. He showed his son how to seal the hull properly, how to test each plank by pressing his weight against it, how to sit in a finished boat and feel with his whole body whether it was true. The son learned everything, not just with his hands, but with his heart. On the morning of the 4th day, the boat was ready, not just repaired, rebuilt. Every weak joint opened and resealed with full care and attention. Every questionable plank replaced with the best timber the boat maker owned. Every surface checked and rechecked until the father was satisfied not with near enough, but with his best. It was before sunrise. The mist was on the river. The village was still sleeping. The boat maker pushed the repaired boat into the shallow water at the bank's edge. He steadied it with one hand. Then he looked at his son and nodded toward the boat. His son stepped in. Then the boat maker stepped in after him. For the first time in many years, the old man was on the water. They pushed off from the bank together. The boat moved beneath them, steady and sure and completely true. The current carried them gently. The morning light came up slowly across the river, turning everything gold. The mist parted before them. The boat held. The village elder who sat by the river every morning watched them from the bank. She had seen the boat maker work for 50 years. She had seen what happened 3 days ago. And now she watched the old man and his son moving together on the golden water in the repaired boat, and she said something quietly to herself. Something the river had known for a very long time. What a man builds with care carries him safely. What a man builds in carelessness, he must carry himself. My dear friend, before this story leaves you, let it ask you one thing. What are you building right now? Not just with your hands, but with your choices, your words, your daily actions, the way you treat the people closest to you. Because here is the truth that every river and every field and every life has always known. We reap what we sow. Not sometimes, not maybe, always. The boat you are building today is the boat someone you love will sail in tomorrow. If you are cutting corners in your work, you are not cheating your employer. You are building a leaking boat for yourself. If you are giving less than your best to your relationships, you are not saving your energy. You are sailing a cracking hull with the people you love inside it. If you are planting carelessness, dishonesty, or half-heartedness into your daily life, do not be surprised when the harvest comes. But if you plant with love, if you work with full attention, if you give your best not because someone is watching, but because the life you are building is yours, then one morning you will step into that boat, and it will hold. If this story touched something inside you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Someone in your life is building a boat right now, rushing, cutting corners, saying near enough. This story might be exactly what they need to hear before the river shows them what near enough really costs. And if you are new here, welcome to Mystic Life Tales. Every week, we bring you stories like this one. Simple stories with deep lessons. Stories that stay with you long after they end. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell so you never miss one. Until next time, build with care, because what you build, you will live in.